The last shadow in your room isn't yours. Don't turn around. Introduction. There's a moment, just before sleep takes you, when the world feels too still. The hum of the house settles, the wind outside fades, and the only sound is your own breath. That's when you notice it, the shadow in the corner of your room. The one that doesn't move when you do. The one that lingers just a little too long. You tell yourself it's nothing, a trick of the light, a figment of your tired mind. But deep down, you know, shadows don't breathe, shadows don't watch, and the last shadow in your room isn't yours. So whatever you do, don't turn around. Relax, body. Part 1. The First Night. Daniel never believed in the things that lurked in the dark. At 23, he was practical, logical, the kind of guy who laughed at ghost stories. But when he moved into his new apartment, something felt off. The place was cheap, too cheap. The landlord had mumbled something about previous tenants leaving suddenly, but Daniel didn't ask questions. He needed the space, and the flickering hallway light and peeling wallpaper weren't enough to scare him off. The first night was uneventful. He unpacked, ordered takeout, and fell asleep to the glow of his laptop. But then, at 3:17 a.m., he woke with a start. His skin prickled with the unmistakable sensation of being watched. His room was bathed in the dim blue light of his alarm clock. Everything was still, except there in the far corner, where the closet door stood slightly ajar, a shadow stretched across the floor. Long, thin, and wrong. It didn't belong to the furniture. It didn't belong to anything in the room. Daniel held his breath. The shadow twitched. His heart hammered. Just my eyes adjusting. Just fatigue. He squeezed them shut, counted to 3, and opened them again. The shadow was gone. He exhaled, laughing at himself. Get it together, man. But as he rolled over to go back to sleep, he felt it. A whisper of cold breath against the back of his neck. And from the darkness behind him, something clicked, like bones snapping into place. Part 2. The Whisper in the Dark. The next morning, Daniel convinced himself it had been a nightmare. He went to work, laughed with his co-workers, and pushed the memory away. But that night, it happened again. This time, he didn't wake to silence. A voice, barely audible, slithered into his ear. "Don't turn around." Daniel froze. The voice wasn't coming from beside him. It wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from inside the room, from the space right behind his head. His fingers dug into the sheets. Every muscle in his body screamed at him to run, to flip over and face whatever was there. But something primal held him still. The shadow had returned. This time it was closer, stretching across the foot of his bed. And as he watched, paralyzed, it began to move. Not like a shadow should, not like something bound by light. It slithered, creeping up the blankets, inch by inch toward him. Daniel's breath came in shallow gasps. The voice came again, wet and guttural. "You're not alone." Then a hand, pale, skeletal, fingers too long, too sharp, emerging from the darkness beside his pillow. It hovered there, trembling, as if savoring his fear. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut. This isn't real. This isn't happening. But when he opened them, the hand was gone. The shadow remained, and now it was smiling. Part 3. The Truth in the Light. Days passed. Daniel stopped sleeping. He left every light on, blared music, anything to keep the thing in the dark at bay. But no matter what he did, the shadow grew bolder. It stood at the foot of his bed. It leaned over him as he pretended to sleep. It whispered things, horrible things, in a voice that wasn't human. Then one night, he broke. Exhausted, delirious, he spun around, fists raised, ready to fight whatever nightmare haunted him. The room was empty. Relief flooded him. It's gone. It's finally. Then he saw it. Reflected in the mirror across the room, standing directly behind him, was a figure, tall, emaciated, its skin stretched too tight over jagged bones. Its mouth split into a grin too wide, too full of teeth. and its eyes, black, endless, locked onto his. "You looked!" it rasped. Daniel screamed. Macht. Conclusion. They found Daniel 3 days later. The apartment was ice cold, every mirror shattered. His body was curled into a fetal position on the bed, his face frozen in a silent scream. The coroner ruled it a heart attack, a young man, gone too soon. But the neighbors knew better. They heard the whispers. They saw the shadow that lingered in his window long after he was gone. And if you listen closely, on quiet nights, you might hear it too. A voice creeping from the darkest corner of your room. Don't turn around. Babs, the last shadow in your room isn't yours. Don't turn around. A multi-part horror story. Part 1, The First Night, 4,000 words. Chapter 1, The Whisper in the Dark. Emma had always been afraid of the dark, not in the childish way most people outgrow. No, hers was a deep, gnawing terror, the kind that slithered under her skin and stayed there. She slept with a nightlight, avoided mirrors at night, and never let her feet dangle off the bed. But tonight, none of that mattered, because tonight something was in her room. She had woken to the sound of breathing, not her own. This was slow, deliberate, as if someone were standing just inches from her face, watching her sleep. Her body locked in place, muscles coiled tight. Sleep paralysis, she told herself. Just sleep paralysis. Then came the whisper. Don't turn around. The voice was wrong, guttural, wet, like words forced through a throat full of broken glass. Emma's pulse roared in her ears. She wanted to scream, to run, but fear had turned her bones to lead. And then, movement. A shadow stretched across the far wall, long, distorted, its edges flickering like static. It wasn't hers. She hadn't moved. Yet the silhouette shifted, tilting its head as if studying her. Then it stepped closer. Chapter 2, The Thing in the Mirror. Morning brought no relief. Emma spent the day exhausted, jumping at every sound. She told herself it had been a nightmare, a hallucination, anything but real. But when night fell again, so did the dread. She avoided sleep as long as she could, scrolling through her phone, blasting music, anything to keep the silence at bay. But eventually, her eyelids grew heavy. She woke to scratching, slow, methodical, like fingernails dragging down the wall beside her bed. Her breath hitched. She wanted to look, but something stopped her. A primal instinct screaming, "Don't move, don't breathe, don't let it know you're awake." Then, a reflection. In the mirror across the room, her own face stared back. Except it wasn't hers. The thing in the mirror had her features. Same hair, same clothes, but its eyes were black. Its smile stretched too wide, lips splitting at the corners. And behind it, looming in the glass, stood the shadow. Taller now, more defined. "You weren't supposed to look," her reflection mouthed. The scratching grew louder, closer. Emma's heart pounded so hard she thought it would burst. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body wouldn't obey. Then, slowly, her reflection reached out and tapped the glass. Once, twice, 3 times. The mirror cracked. Chapter 3, The Shadow's Hunger. By the 3rd night, Emma knew the truth. This wasn't sleep paralysis. This wasn't her imagination. The shadow was real, and it was getting stronger. It no longer just watched. Now it touched. Cold fingers trailing over her arm as she slept. A weight pressing down on the mattress beside her. Breath, thick with the stench of decay, against her neck whenever she closed her eyes. She tried to fight it. Salt lines at the door. A cross under her pillow. None of it worked. Then she found the old forum post. Buried deep in a paranormal thread, dated over a decade ago, was a warning. The last shadow is a mimic. It takes the form of what you fear most. It lives in reflections, in the corners of your vision. It feeds on attention. The more you notice it, the stronger it gets. And once it's strong enough, it takes your place. Emma's blood ran cold, because now, when she looked in the mirror, her reflection didn't move at all. but the shadow behind her did. Part 2. The Possession, 2,000 words. Chapter 4. The Replacement. Emma stopped sleeping. She drank coffee until her hands shook. She kept every light on, every mirror covered. But exhaustion was a relentless enemy. When she finally passed out at her desk, she dreamed of the shadow. It stood over her, its form shifting, elongating, until it wasn't a shadow at all, but her. Same face, same voice. "You're tired," it whispered. "Let me take over." She woke screaming, but when she looked in the mirror, something was different. Her reflection blinked. She hadn't. Chapter 5. The Final Night. Emma knew she was losing. The shadow wasn't just in her room anymore. It was in her. She felt it slithering under her skin, whispering in her mind. "Let me in." She tried to fight. She destroyed every mirror in the house. But it was too late. The last thing she saw was her own face, smiling in the dark, before the shadow reached out and pulled her into the glass. Knock. Part 3. The Aftermath, 2,000 words. Chapter 6. The New Emma. Her friends noticed the change. Emma was different, too calm, too still. Her smiles never reached her eyes. "Dorst, the last shadow in your room isn't yours. Don't turn around." A full-length horror story. Part 1. The Shadow Watches, 5,000 words. Chapter 1. The House on Blackwood Lane. Emily Carter had always been drawn to old houses. There was something about their creaking floors, their whispering walls, their secrets buried beneath layers of dust and time. So when she found the listing for the Victorian home on Blackwood Lane, a 3-bedroom with original woodwork, a clawfoot tub, and a price that seemed too good to be true, she didn't hesitate. The realtor, a woman named Diane with a smile that never reached her eyes, handed her the keys with a warning. The previous owner left in a hurry, didn't even pack. Emily should have asked why. The first night, she slept soundly, lulled by the rhythmic tapping of branches against her window. But on the second night, she woke at 3:17 a.m., her skin prickling. The air was thick, heavy, like something had sucked all the oxygen from the room. And then she saw it. A shadow stretched across the far wall, tall, jagged, its edges shifting like smoke. But Emily hadn't moved. She wasn't casting it. Her breath hitched. The shadow tilted its head. A voice, wet and guttural, slithered into her ear. "Don't turn around." Chapter 2. The Whispering Walls. Emily told herself it was sleep paralysis, a trick of the light. But the next night it happened again. This time she saw the shadow in the hallway, standing at the edge of her doorframe. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just watched. She slammed the door shut, heart pounding, and called her best friend, Jake. "Em, you're freaking yourself out," he said. "Old houses make noise. Shadows look weird at night. You're fine." But she wasn't fine. Because that night, as she lay in bed, she felt it, the weight of a hand pressing into the mattress beside her. The slow, deliberate dip of the bed as something sat down. The voice came again, closer this time. "You're not alone." Chapter 3. The Photographs. Emily tried to distract herself with photography. She took pictures of the house, hoping to capture its beauty, to convince herself it wasn't haunted. But the camera saw what she couldn't. In every shot, there was something wrong. A blurred figure in the corner, a face peering from the mirror, a hand resting on her shoulder when no one was there. The worst was the selfie she took in her bedroom. At first glance it was normal, but then she zoomed in. Behind her the shadow stood, its fingers curled around her neck, its hollow eyes staring straight into the lens. She deleted it immediately. That night, the voice returned, furious. "You weren't supposed to see." Chapter 4. The Neighbor's Warning. Desperate, Emily visited her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Driscoll. The old woman's milky eyes widened when Emily mentioned the shadow. You've seen it then, she whispered. The last watcher. What is it? Emily asked. Mrs. Driscoll leaned in, her breath sour with age. It attaches itself to the lonely, feeds on fear, and once it has you, it never lets go. Emily laughed nervously. That's ridiculous! But that night she felt it, the weight of a hand on her shoulder, the press of something cold against her back. The voice was no longer a whisper, it was a command. Don't turn around. She couldn't help it. She turned. Part 2. The Shadow Takes Hold. 2,000 words. Chapter 5. The Thing Behind Her. Emily's scream never left her throat. The thing behind her was a nightmare given form. A skeletal figure with 2 long limbs, its skin stretched taut over jagged bones, its mouth split into a grin, revealing rows of needle-thin teeth. And its eyes. Its eyes were black voids, endless and hungry. It lunged. Chapter 4. Chapter 6. The Disappearance. Jake was the first to notice Emily was gone. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her social media went dark. When he went to check on her, the house was empty, except for one thing. Emily's camera sat on the dresser, the last photo still on the screen. In it, Emily's face was twisted in terror. And behind her, the shadow stood, its hand now covering her mouth. The caption read, "Don't turn around." Part 3. The Shadow Spreads. 2,000 words. Chapter 7. A New Victim. Jake didn't believe in ghosts, but after Emily vanished, he started seeing things. Movement in the corner of his eye, a shadow that didn't match his own. And then, one night, he heard it. The voice. You're next. Chapter 8. The Final Photo. Jake's body was found a week later, his face frozen in a silent scream. On his phone was a single image, a selfie. Behind him the shadow grinned, and beside it barely VIs.